Hey guys, welcome to Ringsiders Wrestling. I am Jamie, he is Callum, and our guest today, he is a legend of British wrestling, Dean Allmark. Hello, Dean.
Hey guys.
How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
We're rocking and rolling. Rocking and rolling.
Doing this is keeping us somewhat sane, I think. Like throughout this pandemic, it's good to speak to people on a pretty much daily basis now and just like talk about wrestling. It's kind of kept us sane, I think. So, how have you been dealing with the pandemic recently? Have you still been able to get in the ring much?
No, I haven't actually wrestled since March, but I own a wrestling school, so the ring's all set up there. And in the first lockdown, I was going like every week and just doing the rolls and stuff, but not so much lately. I just thought I got to the stage where I was kind of like making it kind of like a vlog, and I did like 5, and then I was just like, like this is a lot of work. I think
I've seen videos you post, or I think it's on your Instagram. You post like you just doing moves, and some of the sequences you've done I've never seen before. Like I know you get a lot of positive feedback on some of the stuff you come up with on those Instagram videos you post. So how do you come up with some of this stuff? Because I know all the comments are saying, "Oh, stealing this."
Yeah, so that was another thing. Obviously, being a wrestler, you're like a creative. Like that's my favorite part of wrestling is like creating stuff. And since lockdowns happened, like I've kind of lost that creativity because I'm just like I can't do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I started that second Instagram page because I've always posted like movies from like my wrestling training, videos from my wrestling training, and I just thought like to help me like get that creative side of me out there, I'll just start like uploading these videos again because I've still got like the footage. Yeah. So I think I'm up to like 100 now, 100 like moves of the week. But when it comes to like the creative side of the wrestling, that's my favorite side. Going back to like WCW, like I used to watch like Chris Kanyon. ECW was like Nova. So like these creative guys that used to do moves like nobody else did, and they used to invent moves. They were the guys that I was always drawn to. Yeah. And that was the kind of wrestler I've always tried to be. I've invented quite a lot of moves, and I'll always go and watch like jiu-jitsu tournaments, like amateur wrestling tournaments, and try and see the stuff they do and kind of twist it and bring it into like the pro game as well.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people know you as, especially at this point in your career. You're pretty much a modern day Johnny Saint. Like the stuff that you come up with. I mean, you are known as like the technical guy in British wrestling, and that's in a scene with like I know he wrestles in Japan, but he's still British. There's Zack Sabre Jr., who's he's a technical guy, but I don't think. I think you're on the same level personally. Yeah, some of the stuff I've seen you do is incredible.
Well, Zach is amazing, and like when people ask me like who do I think like the best wrestlers in the world are, like Zach's always in like the top 5, especially when it comes to British wrestlers. Like, his British wrestling style is absolutely amazing, and whenever I've been in the ring with Zach, it's always been like magic. He's so easy to wrestle, and yeah, he's a great dude too.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously Kanyon and Nova. Who else were inspirations for you then? I mean, obviously, I'm presuming you was a big World of Sport fan. So was you inspired by people like Johnny Saint?
So growing up watching wrestling, it was always WWF. Like my granddad got me into WWF when I was like 6 years old. And then obviously, my best friend lived about 10 houses away from me, who is Robbie Dynamite. You've probably heard of him. Yeah. But we've known each other since we were like that age, from like the age of 6. And we used to go to the shows at Real, like in the Coliseum on the front there. We used to go to Victoria Hall in Hanley, which was our local venue, and watch like the All-Star shows there. So they were big influences, but like the biggest influence that I got was when me and Rob were like 14 and 15, we used to take the train to Manchester, and there used to be a tape trader in a shopping arcade there. And we used to get the VHS tapes from in there. and I think they were like a $5 each, and we used to spend like £100 each, and just we'd be on the train back from Manchester with bin bags full of like VHS tapes. And Rob used to get wrestling, like the British wrestling, the Mexican wrestling, but I used to always focus. I was always drawn to like the Japanese wrestling. So like FMW, New Japan, All Japan, and my favorite was Michinoku Pro Wrestling, which not a lot of people know about even to this day. But Michinoku Pro will always be my favorite thing to watch, especially from like the mid '90s, because it was just, if you watch them like 6-man tag matches with like Kai and Tai, especially, they were absolutely amazing. So I was always drawn to like the Japanese wrestling, and Japanese wrestling was a big influence on me when I first started training.
That's cool. I know you've got a technical side as well, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is you're quite hard hitting as well when you want to be, and that makes sense if you've like grown up watching Michinoku Pro, which is a very strong style promotion, and you've got you love Japanese wrestling. What I really like about your career, Dean, is you've done a lot of work with All Star, and you've worked with these family friendly crowds. You've always been like a fan favorite, but later on, when I saw you doing work with NJPW, you showed a bit of a darker side to yourself as well. Like you've got Extreme Dean, but then Dean Allmark was also, there was a darker side to him. And I don't mean evil or bad or anything like that. You were still a face, but you showed that you were serious too. What encouraged like that character change in NJPW? Was it intentional, or was it just something that you felt like you wanted to try out?
So I wrestled for 10 years for All Star without wrestling for anybody else in the UK. So like you're talking like 250 matches every year, just like full time. And then when I got to the Indies, it was kind of like starting all over again. So basically what I wanted to show is like a lot of people think like All Star are like a bunch of like flag waving clappy wrestlers. I just wanted to show that like we could go in there with like what they think is the best guys on the indie scene, and like actually go in there and compete and at their level, And I guess it was like it brought out my series because their matches are intense and it's like more of an adult audience. So you don't have to like concentrate on like getting the crowd with you because the crowd are already there. You know what I mean? And All Star shows, especially on the wrestling in front of people that aren't wrestling fans. So on the camps, the wrestling is actually secondary. It's all about like the charisma and the showmanship. On the holiday camps, just getting like thousands of people who don't watch wrestling to get behind you and get into the match, and because most of them have never seen wrestling before,
That's so true. I know Nathan Cruz has said it, but then also there is people in WWE and AEW like Bryan Danielson, now wrestling as Daniel Bryan, and Dash Wilder. He also said like when he was in the UK and did camp shows, that's when he really learned how to do wrestling. And he was working with All Star, as was Bryan Danielson. And that's when they learned, like, if you can make a crowd of people who don't know your name, they don't watch wrestling, if you can make them cheer you, you've done your job. And that's the biggest challenge you can do, is get people who don't care about you to cheer for you. And if you do that 250 times a year, you're going to come out of that as, somebody who really understands what it is to work a crowd. And I feel like that's what you've got. You did all that time with All Star. So when you hit the independents, people obviously were expecting Extreme Dean Allmark to come out, but you came out and you were putting on matches like Match of the Year candidates with people in Progress and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool as a fan to see that change from Extreme Dean into showing that you can actually go with these people as well. You're not just waving the UK flag when you come out, you're actually a serious, legitimate wrestler.
Yeah, and I think like if you're wrestling on that regular basis, like look at like Daniel Bryan and Dash, like when they first come here, they had experience, but like not as experienced as like the UK guys that they were on the shows with, Daniel Bryan, I met him in 2003 and we were wrestling each other like every single day, the team at that time, like it was like big guys like PN News, Brody Steele, who's 7 foot. Like Daniel Bryan was like the smallest American on the show, and I was like the smallest English guy. So that's why we were paired up, and we used to just have so much fun. And like we used to have like a sequence with the flags where we get in there, we have like a little flag fight at the beginning of the match.
That's awesome.
Until one day, like our flags clashed, and it snapped my flag. And like Brian Dixon just went off his head because he had to buy like a new flag. So,
oh, Dean, I've got to ask. You've just mentioned Brian Dixon. Yeah. I ask everybody who mentions Brian Dixon. Can you do a Brian Dixon impression?
I can't do it. Like, I'm so bad at impressions, and like obviously being around like Robbie Brookside and Tony Spitfire, if you're around them, it's like Brian is in the room, you know. But no, I can't do that.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember when we spoke, obviously because we know Nathan. I remember when we spoke to Nathan. Whenever we talked about Brian Dixon, he did it in Brian Dixon's voice, didn't he? And it was just you couldn't take him serious. There's Nathan with his little stupid face he's pulling, isn't he? And it's just like it's just so funny. But speaking of Brian, I mean, what was it like working for Brian?
Obviously, I've worked for Bryan now since 2001, and it's been great. You know, like being like a 16, 17-year-old kid, doing at least 7 shows every single week of the year. It was absolutely amazing at that time, and growing up on the Butlins camps, and then going to like these halls like the Fairfield Hall in Croydon, like Hull City Hall, all these massive venues with these massive crowds was absolutely amazing. So he's kept me in a job for 19 years, like on a full-time basis. So I'm forever grateful.
But you won't do an impression.
Definitely not. I wouldn't embarrass myself.
Obviously, as well, just while you touched on it as well, obviously working with Daniel Bryan, what was that like? I mean, could you tell back then in 2003 that this kid was that good?
Because he came back like, I think he came here like 4 times, and like the first time, I think he stayed here for like a year. And he just absolutely loved this. And he actually said to me, if the money was better in England, then he'd just wrestle in England and Japan, and he wouldn't even wrestle like in America. And obviously the money that Ring of Honor were paying him was like the most he was getting, so he kind of had to do it. But yeah, he absolutely loved it. And I remember the first time, like he'd be smashing you with forearms, you'd be seeing stars, and I don't think he kind of got like the camp style at the beginning, but then by the last time I wrestled him in like 2009, I think it was, because he came after he got fired when he was doing the whole like NXT thing, was it? Yeah. So he came back here and did the camps, and then he totally changed again. He was just, he totally got it, and it was just all I remember is like having so much fun. And us traveling up and down the road together, and him rapping Vanilla Ice, Ice Baby, which he absolutely loved. He used to practice on the car journeys, and then when we used to go out on the Butlins holiday camps, he used to get on the karaoke, and that was his little party trick.
I've heard that about Bryan before from a few people, that karaoke is his thing. You would not expect that from him.
Ice Baby used to do it so good. I used to just do the beat for him, but yeah, he was absolutely amazing at that.
Brilliant. Another company, I'll mention WWEDynamite in a minute as well, but another company you worked for was WAW. You've been there. What was it like working with the Knights? Because I think the Knights, Ricky especially, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. What was it like working for Ricky?
So I did the show at Carrow Road, which is the football stadium in Norwich, and it was absolutely fine. It was absolutely great. It's a long journey for me. It's cross country. But my first week on the holiday camps with Brian Dixon was with the Knights. It was like Julia was there. Ricky and Roy were the tag team that I was wrestling every day of the week, and they were beating the shit out of me. So, like since meeting him that first week, I've always got on great with the Knights. And I remember Zach was only tiny at the time. He was like 7 or 8, and he had like long hair. And just growing up with him, and obviously Paige being like a little tiny girl and being like this big mega star now is absolutely amazing. But the show at Carroll Grove was absolutely great, and hopefully I can work more for him in the future. I've got a great relationship with him, and like you said, like the entire Knight family don't get the credit that they deserve. You know, they're not just like Paige's brothers; they're actually really good people and really good workers.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't realize. Like I think I was saying to you before we started recording. I remember seeing you at one of the first shows I ever went to. I've just remembered I don't know if it helps me try and remember what it was, but I know the show was promoted by the Knights. Has it always been WAW that they've promoted, or was there another promotion that they run at some point?
I'm not sure. Like, obviously, when I came in, like, it wasn't as clean cut because promotions didn't really have a name. You'd just be like, okay, you're wrestling for like Klondike Jake today, or you're wrestling for Orig. You know what I mean? Like, or you're wrestling for Scott Conway today. It was like there was a bunch of promoters, but because there was like no internet or anything like this, it wasn't really like a necessity to have like, oh, this name, this brand. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, today I'm wrestling for Scott Conway. Tomorrow I'm wrestling for Klondike Jake. Next week I'm wrestling for Orig Williams. You know, I just knew the promoters, and the people. And at that time as well, it wasn't like I was getting in touch with these promoters or anything like that. It was always like off somebody like James Mason. James would be like, "Oh, jump in the car. You coming to the show with me?" And I was just like, "Okay."
Wow.
You know, I was just
different times.
Honestly, like at that time of my life when I was like started training when I was 15, up until like the age of 18 was just like such a mad like learning experience. For my first training session, everything kind of went so fast, and I was just like, wow, this is just absolutely magic. I was young, free and single, you know, just traveling up and down the country, just having the time of my life.
That sounds awesome, dude. But not to mention it, like it is only really a recent thing in British wrestling, especially where you have been familiar with these promotions. Like every town now has a promotion. We've got a thriving wrestling scene. But I also remember at one point, I can only remember Future Shock Wrestling and Frontier Wrestling Alliance, you know, in London. And I think that was the only two that I could name at one point. But then it seemed like overnight, this wrestling scene's just blossomed in the UK. I mean, what's it like for you as a performer, seeing British wrestling basically get reborn in the last 5 years?
Yeah, it is crazy. And obviously when I first started, there was no like internet. Like you used to buy like Power Slam magazine and check out, try and find out like the wrestling schools in there. And like to my knowledge at that time, there was only like Hammerlock Wrestling School in the entire country that you could go to and train. And it just so happened that the building that I was training in, there was a gym on the top floor. On the middle floor, a wrestling school happened to open up and come along, and we just went along the first day, and that was it. So it's and obviously, speaking about a time where there was like no mobile phones or internet or anything like that, it is like a totally different time now, you know. But I wouldn't trade my time for any. Like I used to enjoy getting the VHS tapes and finding something that was really rare, and then watching it over and over again and just studying them tapes. And now, like you've obviously got YouTube, you can pretty much find any match that you want. You know,
taken some of the magic away, hasn't it? Like that. I can imagine it was awesome to find that tape and it's like your prized possession, but I could now find something within 5 seconds if we said what it was. Like it's
absolutely crazy.
I mean, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love that we've got so much wrestling, but I think it has taken a little bit of the magic away from, you know, tape trading, especially. I wish I was old enough at the time to do it. I was only like 10, but I would have done it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I've still got all my tapes, all my crates of the tapes that I've still got them all, and I just can't bear to part with them. I'm just like, you know, it's from a special time, and they've got a special place, and I'm sure there's matches on them tapes that you can't find on the internet, you know. So yeah, they'll always remind me of like a really special time in my life.
Yeah, I'm the same. At my parents' house in the loft, there's just boxes of old wrestling VHSs, and I don't want to get rid of them. Even though I haven't got a VHS player at the minute, my mum's like, should we get rid of these? I'm like, no, never, absolutely not, no. get rid of you first, not them. It's like, don't even do that. But, obviously, we'll touch as well. Obviously, Robbie Dynamite, you and Robbie. Whenever I've seen you two, the chemistry and you intertwined, I'm guessing. What's it like working with Robbie, someone you're so close with? And does that friendship help when you're in the ring with the chemistry with each other?
So, like I said before, like we knew each other since we were like 6 years old, and we were always wrestling like in the backyard or in the living room, and we used to like get together and watch like all the pay-per-views. We used to stay up all night and watch them. And obviously, Rob, being a year older than me, was kind of always like my big brother, and he was the one that showed me how to like train in the gym, because obviously I was in school for that year. And he was totally training. He used to do amateur wrestling, like Olympic style wrestling. So he used to teach me like Olympic style wrestling too. And like obviously when we first started wrestling, he used to look out for me. And Rob was a really tough guy, He used to like just strangle the hell out of everybody that he come across, And people always used to try his home with Rob, and he used to just rip their heads off. So he was good. He was good to have around. And Rob was a real natural. And even though we started training at the same time, he always it was like he knew how to wrestle before we even got trained, So he always taught me loads. And when we used to wrestle, I always used to feel like I was in the ring with somebody that was better than me, and I felt like I had like a point to prove every time we wrestled each other. And I think that's why the matches were so good. And it just felt like we were making magic. And if I had to pick one person that brings out the best in me, it would be Robbie Dynamite. And sadly, he retired like 2.5 years ago now. He wrestled me at a charity show in Congleton, and that was his last match. He just got injured, man. Wrestling's a tough game, and he needed a couple of operations. And fingers crossed, like he might make a comeback like wrestlers do. But Rob is kind of like a man of his word, and when he said he's going to do something, that's it. He always said
now.
He's not doing any wrestling whatsoever now.
You okay though? Like, is he doing better with his after the surgeries?
Yeah, he's doing good. He lives like an hour away from me now, so I don't see him at all anymore, especially with all this going on. But yeah, he's doing good. But like, we ended up in Japan together, before he retired, like wrestling over there. So it's just like, I just remember sitting back thinking like, wow, like we're sat in a hotel room in Japan now. Like, look at where we started. Like just two poor kids from like Stoke, and now here we are, like living the life in Japan. It was just like full circle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually as well. Obviously, with Japan, what was it like when you finally got to go over there and wrestle in Japan? Obviously, saying that you was influenced by the Japanese wrestling. What was that like, finally getting to go over there?
It was weird. It was like when I wrestle in Japan, like I've been on 3 tours now, and whenever I wrestle in Japan, it almost feels like I'm at my most comfortable. Like that feels more home than it does over here. Like I just feel so comfortable, and I kind of know how the Japanese crowd are going to react because I've seen so much Japanese wrestling, and it's just such a nice place. Like the people are so respectful, and it really is my favorite place in the world.
Was it Wrestle One that was it just Wrestle One that you wrestled for when you was in Japan?
So I wrestled for Wrestle One in 2014, and then I went for Diamond Stars Wrestling in 2016 and 2017.
Awesome. So you like I said, you've been 3 times now. You've managed to check off that bucket list. Because I know for so many people, everyone we speak to, they're always like, when we say, what's your goal? What do you want to do? They're like, we want to wrestle in Japan. Everybody wants to wrestle there. So it must have been a magical moment for you.
So like in 2011, I wrestled for Dragon Gate when they came over here. And I was like, this is the closest I'm going to get to Japan. And then I wrestled Juicy and Thunder Liger in 2013. I was like, okay, like that's the closest I'm going to get to Japan. Like,
wow.
And then an agent just came along to one of the shows I was wrestling on and decided to take me in 2014. I was just like, my mind was absolutely blown because it was just a place that just seemed like unreachable. I was just like, I'm not one for really like setting goals and like having stuff I want to do. I've kind of been like driftwood, just like drifting down the river, and I've kind of fell into all the stuff that has happened to me. So yeah, I just got lucky, I guess.
And is that what you're looking to do in 2021 when, hopefully things start to resume? Are you just hoping to drift into more opportunities that come along as well?
Yeah, I feel like since lockdown happened, I've kind of like found myself like spiritually now. I've realized that in my life, there's been a lot of really like hefty coincidences that I've looked at, oh, well, that was cool. Like, it was just a coincidence, but it's like, oh no, I think I was kind of guided, these are kind of signs, and I've really been lucky, and I've been well looked after, and now knowing the things that I know and being in this mindset, I might just push myself a little bit more. Obviously, this year was meant to be my 20th year anniversary in wrestling, and I was looking to like, I remember like a lot of promoters like getting in touch and, okay, we're gonna book you for this show, and I had some really big matches lined up this year, and unfortunately they got cancelled. So 2021, I think I'm gonna come back, and I feel kind of like, I know it's a bit cliche, but reborn again. You know, I felt like at the end of 2019, I was kind of like coming towards the end of my journey, and retirement was like in the back of my mind, like, oh, like 20 years seems like a good number to retire on, and I just felt like I was at the end. I'd done everything, but like now with this mindset, I feel like I'm at the beginning of a journey, and I feel like, yeah, there's loads more I can do and more places to go, and I feel like the fire's been relit inside me, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, to quote Mark Henry, you've got plenty left in the tank by the sounds of it. So, it would be cool if you did come back, and like I said, you're not a person for setting goals, but from a fan point of view, there's so much I'd love to actually see you do. Because I don't doubt for a second, if you wanted to go back to Japan, you could do. Like, I'd like to see you go back to Japan. I know you were doing great work on the independents before this happened. But I'd just like to see you wrestling as many places as possible, because we got to see you at WrestleGate in Nottingham, and I think it was Nathan you went against, and Danny Duggan, I think it was.
Yeah.
And those were really good matches. Like they were quite strong style matches. I just want to see more of that, man. Like, so yeah, when you come back in 2021, can we just expect like a new and improved Dean Allmark, or is it just Dean Allmark 2.0?
Yeah, I think it is going to be like new and improved, because obviously my mindset's changed now, and I feel like there's so much that I can add to my game that I haven't really done before. So yeah, and I think kind of like I've been like on the go so much over the last 20 years, and I've always been like at a show and kind of like looking forward to like, okay, this is where I need to go tomorrow and the day after. I've kind of been like looking forward, and I've never really had the time to like stop and like reset and refocus. And I think like this is like an enforced rest that I might have needed, So yeah, not wrestling for a year. Like thinking about it, like before all this, I was like, that would kill me, like not wrestling for a year. But maybe it's like a good thing. And like I was saying about like the signs and coincidences before, maybe this is just where I needed to get to like the next level. So yeah, I'm definitely not like the thought of retirement is totally gone. I was just like, this absolutely head. It's like I feel like a retired wrestler, and like a retired wrestler's life absolutely sucks. So I don't think I'm ever going to retire after this year.
Good.
Just going back as well, and obviously you touched on wrestling Liger. I mean, what was that like wrestling him? Was that, I mean, you must have learnt a lot in the ring with a guy like that.
Oh, absolutely. Like obviously, as well as Michinoku, like the New Japan junior heavyweights were something that I absolutely loved, as well as like the WCW cruiserweights. Like I was always drawn to like the smaller guys, and Liger was like top of the juniors. So getting the chance to wrestle Liger was absolutely amazing. And the match, if we wrestled right now, like the match would be 10 times better. I think I was kind of psyched myself out a little bit. And the pressure kind of got to me. Like I do like the match, but I know that I could have done better. if I had another chance. But the actual experience itself was absolutely amazing. Liger is fantastic, and he still was amazing when I wrestled him. And I just wish that I was at this stage where I am now.
Yeah.
Other than like 8 years ago, like there's been times in my career where it just hasn't been the right time, you know. I'll be grateful. And that match actually got me into Japan because after the agent come and saw me wrestle at the show, he got in touch with Liger and asked his opinion on what I was like to wrestle. And Liger said I was good, so I must have done okay, to be honest. And that was the deciding factor. Of what got me to Japan. So
if I was you, I'd put that on my job CV. It'd just say Liger said I was good. And
it's crazy. I did a 6-man with Tiger Mask and Taguchi, and as we came out, Tiger Mask said to Chris Brooks, he said, "Oh, like, how old is he?" And he was like, "Oh, he's really quick." And I was just like, "I'll take that." Tiger Mask said, "Oh, he's really quick."
That's high praise.
So the little things like that just will always stick out as like, oh, like I said I was good, or Tiger Mask said I was quick. So just little things like that are mind blowing to me.
I love that.
Yeah. And obviously, before we wrap things up as well, I've got to ask you, Japan, Ribera Steakhouse, did you go and get the jacket?
I did.
You did?
I did. I got so the guys from there like were at the show. It was at the Shinkaba First Ring. I wrestled Minoru Tanaka there. And my gear in Japan was always red and white. And for that, they gave me a red and white Ribera jacket.
Awesome.
Which was absolutely amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I got my picture taken like right next to the Ribera Steakhouse sign with the jacket on with my championship belt that I defended that day. And
that's going to be one of the best moments of your career.
Honestly, at the end of that day, I was just like, I've just wrestled Minoru Tanaka, which obviously is like another New Japan Junior that I used to watch. Yeah. And I just beat Minoru Tanaka. And then I was just there chilling in the Ribera Steakhouse. And I was just like, What is my life? Like, just don't wake me up.
That's so cool.
Nobody can see.
That's amazing. We all want that jacket, don't we, Callum? It's it's incredible, man. But obviously, before we let you go, go on. Yeah, please, go on.
Oh man. Wow, there it is.
Oh,
you see it?
That's amazing.
Look at that. I bet that went so well with your attire as well.
Oh my god, I gotta stick it on right now.
Oh, dude. Oh. Look at that. That's the thumbnail for the episode, that is.
Absolutely. It's my pride and joy. It's hung up in the cupboard there. And it's just another like mind-blowing moment of my career. And like whenever anybody asks, like, oh, like when you were in Japan, did you go to Ribera Steakhouse? I'm just like, yeah, and I got the jacket.
You've got it ready to hand, haven't you? If ever you do a podcast, you're like, right, I'll get the jacket ready.
It's the first podcast that's ever come up.
Really?
So like, you guys have stole it, and you got to steal.
Well, give us a wave for the thumbnail, Dean. How he says. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, is that better? The peace sign.
That'll do.
That is the coolest jacket I have ever seen.
I'm so jealous. So
I hardly ever wear it because like I think there's a bit of a stigma in wrestling. Like if you turn up wearing like a jacket at a show, everybody
guys.
Like,
this jacket, from the Ribera Steakhouse. Yeah.
look at that douche. So I never get to wear it just in case.
I love it.
Oh man, that is pride and joy, man. I mean, I've got a signed Roddy Piper t-shirt in this drawer here, which I will never wear. It's just there as a pride. I'm the same. It's just one of them things that you'll just cherish forever. And it's just wow. I'm so jealous of that jacket, man. I really am.
Well, it's mine. You can't have it.
Oh man. Obviously, before we let you go, Dean, please come back again, won't you, in the future? Because there's so much more we could talk about.
Yeah, sure.
Oh man, like just hit me up anytime.
Definitely, man. But is there anything you want to plug as well? Social medias, any merch?
If you just want to, on all social medias, you can find me at Dean Allmark. All my merch is like in the bios. Yeah, so if you want to be kind enough to buy a shirt, I'd be much appreciated.
I think we can do that, Jamie.
I you know what I'm like. Every guest we have on, I buy their merch. So I do.
You made a promise now.
Now, Jamie.
Yeah, I get paid on Friday, so I do it with everyone. I'll buy a T-shirt. I will. It's
Black Friday's coming up, and High Spots have got offers on. So there you go.
There we go.
No excuse.
There we go. I will buy a T-shirt. I give you my word. But now, man,
Wrestle Merch Central in this country. That's the place.
Right. Wrestle Merch Central. We'll put it in the description for the episode.
Thank you so much.
I will make sure, man. It's been a pleasure. I mean, me and Callum have said plenty of times before that one of the guys we want to speak to is yourself, because we've been huge fans.
Yeah, you've come up in conversation before when we've spoken to other guests. You've come up before in conversation. So to actually get to speak to you about your journey in professional wrestling is quite an honour, especially as a British wrestling fan. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Dean.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man. He's Dean Allmark. We are Ringsiders.